Welcome to Women's History Month interview series, hosted by Supervision Fremont and Foundation for Advocating Youth Education, FAPE. Today, I'll be interviewing Dr. Stefania Kapsetaki, a postdoctoral research fellow at Arizona State University. Welcome, Stefania.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So, this interview will be split into two parts. The first part will be focused on the journey to where you are today, and then the second part will be focused on your women empowerment journey. So, let's get started. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. As you said, I'm Dr. Stefania Kapsetaki, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Arizona State University. I started there in 2019. Before that, I did my master's and PhD at Oxford, where I worked on the evolution of multicellularity. And if we have time, I might be able to explain a bit about that as well. And before then, I was in Greece, where I was actually born. I'm half Greek, half British. In Greece, I did my undergrad degree in biology. And I also started from a very young age playing the piano. So now I'm kind of a professional pianist with my sister. So my sister and I are twins. So we play, well, before the pandemic, we would play every year about 10 concerts in Europe, like classical music. So we would often like have a concert. I would play like solo piano pieces for half an hour, and my sister would play for another half an hour, and we would like at the end we would have like some special pieces, say for four hands and two pianos. So that was quite exciting, but I do miss it a bit now with the pandemic. So but in terms of research, maybe I can tell you a bit about my research at the moment is focused on cancer, and specifically cancer across species. So we are looking at, many of you might not know that not only humans have developed cancer, there are lots of other species like lizards, snakes, elephants have low cancer rates. So we're trying to look at that and explain why. There's so many species. I mean, at the moment I'm looking at about 900 species, and we're trying to understand why some species have lower and higher cancer rates. And one of my projects is looking at the effect of diet and habitat, and even like the gut microbiome. How does that affect different cancer rates in all these different species? There's also like another project we're looking at cancer and how it connects with chimerism. So chimerism is when we have like different cells that are not our own in our body. And that doesn't refer to like the bacteria that we usually have like as our normal gut flora or on our skin, but it mostly refers to like these cells that have been found to be exchanged between mother and child during pregnancy. It's very interesting. Like we didn't know that cells can be exchanged between mother and fetus, and this can carry on for many generations, from grandmother to mother to child. And these cells have been found in the breast, in the thyroid, in the brain, even in the blood. And we don't exactly know what they are doing, but we think because they're different, well, they're not exactly the same as our own, they might be associated with cancer, because cancer is like cells that have specific mutations that make those cells proliferate faster than our own cells. Yes, so that's been kind of my research journey. Yeah.
That is very cool. How you talked about two different aspects of your work, your professional music career and your research. So can you please explain your motivation for being able to pursue your music career and your research career?
Yeah, so I mean, looking at my past, I suppose it's many things. So I'm thinking about like my mother's childhood. She grew up like in the UK, and at that time, it was really hard. Like it was just after the war, and they didn't really have much money as a family to like provide education for all of the children. So she grew up really in quite harsh conditions, and I think that's what kind of like she helped us. She made sure that her own children, like me and my sister, that we had everything that we could. So she has been like a major help and like support throughout our years. And as a child, I remember like being really excited and motivated to like learn more about animals. We always had pets in the house, and we lived like in Crete, where like the landscape is so interesting. Like you have well, everything really, like there's the high mountains, you have the gorges, you have the sea, there's like the climate that well, lots of the landscape is so diverse that you get like many different species of plants, and that kind of intrigued me into going into biology. And the music side, I think it's I don't know really. Well, I'm trying to think whether there's like somebody in my family that was kind of musical. I think my grandfather used to play the drums in a band, but other than that, I think mostly when we were children, like we would go to concerts, classical concerts, although there weren't that many in Crete, but they were a big influence on us. Like we were really impressed, me and my sister, by like the sound of an orchestra, of like this huge sound, and how all these different instruments create such a well enormous diversity of voices. Like it's like a multicellular organism where you have all these cells cooperating and produce like a well a great music and a human being in the sense. Yeah.
Mhm. So I love how you talked about various different experiences guiding your journey to becoming who you are today. For instance, we have your interest in biology accumulating from exploring the environment. What advice do you have for high schoolers who want to make a difference in their community?
Yes, advice. I mean, I think it's mostly like each person has to like be strongly believe in what they want to do, and like if each of us is like an example in the community, that can influence many people. Like if we do the right thing, other people will like are likely to well, copy us, and this mirroring effect is going to like multiply in the community. So my advice would be like just to well go with your instinct and be passionate with whatever your interest is. And uh, just if there's like something in your community that you don't like, if there's like social things that like you see that maybe women are not supported as much as they should be, or there might be racism, or there might be bullying around, like you should be like the person to kind of raise your voice and just explain like what's going on. And I think education plays a big role as well. Like through education we can kind of teach people that like I'm thinking of even broader like non-humans, like species level, that we're all similar and we're all striving for the same things. And we have to just respect each other and understand that we all have freedom, well,
Agreed.
a certain amount
Mhm.
of freedom, but also responsibilities in the community. And there's like an important balance there that we have to always consider in our community and in all our decisions.
Agreed. Wonderful advice there. So now we'll be transitioning from the first part of the interview to the second part, your women empowerment journey. Let's start with the first question. Who are your biggest inspirations? Do you have a woman role model, perhaps your mother or your teachers? Pursue your work.
Hmm. Yeah, as I said, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's first thing I think about is like my own family. Like, my mother has been really supportive, and of course, all my family and my sister. And but then I always remember like from a very young age, I had some really good teachers. Of course, I mean, there's some that are not the
Mm-hmm.
best that someone would like to have, but there's other teachers that have been really supportive. Like I remember even in my high school in Crete, even at the music school, then a university at Oxford. There's been some really inspirational teachers that like they combine things so well. So like they do research as well, and they help their undergrads, but they also have time for their own families. Uh, they they seem to be able to manage all these different roles in their life. So that's really inspirational for me. And well, yeah, so that's something that I strive to accomplish, like be able to manage all these different roles that we have as women in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's cool. And is there a specific moment in your life when you felt that being a woman held you back?
I think like I'm trying to think of like many cases in the news now. They bring up so many like bad cases, I suppose, that have influenced people. But in me, there's not really been like I can't think of anybody that has influenced me really in like a bad way. Or if there has been, like I've made sure that I kind of well ignore those negative thoughts and make sure that I'm strong and still like
Agreed.
persistent in my own goals. And like sometimes it's difficult because like a negative thought or a negative like it's yeah, sometimes it's weird because it's a weird balance between like an advice can be um on the negative side, but as well in some way it might be helpful because they might pinpoint something that in the long term you might need to change to improve as a person. So it's good to like look at the advice that is out there, but it's also important to kind of filter what comes in and how that influences you, like as we grow up as people. So yeah.
Yeah. hmm Wow, that was all very wonderful advice and tips. So thank you so much for answering the questions so thoroughly, and I learned a lot from this interview. Once again, thank you so much for meeting with us and for supporting us.